Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this workshop, Reducing Grading Time with Gradescope, which is being offered through the Office of Assessment and Accreditation in partnership with the Center for Teaching and Learning. We are really excited about this tool, and we are really excited that you're here to learn more about it. We have several faculty who are using it and experts on the tool here to talk to you today about Gradescope. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to them to let them introduce themselves. If you have any questions at all during the presentation, please feel free to drop them in the chat and I will bring them up to our presenters. So we'll hand it over to Ree to get started.
Hi, my name is Ree Linker, and I'm a lecturer in the math department. I've been here at UNC Charlotte for a long time, and I really enjoy teaching, but I don't really enjoy grading tests. So that's why I'm here today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tanya Bates. I'm a senior lecturer in biological sciences, and I love to give feedback to my large enrollment classes. So that's why I started using Gradescope. So I'll tell you more about that today.
Hi, I'm Ariella. I'm a senior studying biology, and I worked as a preceptor with Professor Bates, and we both use Gradescope together to do grading for exams and in-class activities, and it was really helpful for me. So I wanted to come in and tell you guys about it.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mitch Cotmore. I'm the Director of Assessment in the Office of Assessment and Accreditation. I've been working with the Gradescope project pretty much since day one. So I'm going to start us off with a little bit of background and just kind of show you how to get to Gradescope, and then I will turn it over to the faculty members because that's who you really want to hear from on how to use Gradescope. All right, so Gradescope came to campus in about 2020. It was as a result of a faculty request. Two faculty members in CCI put in a request to IT to bring Gradescope on and start using it because they had used it at previous institutions and thought it was something that would be useful for faculty on campus. Since that time, we've had an increase in the number of courses that are using it and faculty that are using it. And so faculty from across multiple colleges are using it. CCI, I guess now College of Science, Chess, Business, and let's see, I think those are the main users, engineering as well. And so you can see in fall 2022, we had 9,327 unique student users. So this is a fairly significant number of students on campus, mainly undergraduates who are using this, and mainly in the large enrollment courses in those sort of first and second year courses that we see across campus. As of right now, there's this semester, there are 7,329 unique students in there. That number continues to increase as people start to bring in their courses as midterms come up and those types of things. So we're looking to see that number increase as well. Part of this increase has been the result of Gradescope now replacing OpScan, which happened last summer for grading of all bubble sheet exams. So you can do this, you don't have to send your tests over to the library anymore. You can do all this right from the comfort of your own departmental office and office space and not have to wait for that information to come back to you. You can get it as soon as you can get your exams scanned in and put into the program. It is integrated with Canvas for grade transfer. So there's a couple of things that need to happen there. Canvas brings over the roster. You would want to switch out the Canvas ID number for the student ID number for bubble sheets, but I've got some resources that help you with that information and how to do that. And then last thing that's important is that we do have an institutional contract to use this through 2026. So this last year, we were able to sign a 3-year contract with Gradescope, who is actually owned by Turnitin. And they are, so we have this for a long period of time. So this is not something that if you learn how to use it now, it will vanish next semester. It's here for several years to come. All right, so to get you to Gradescope, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. I've created a web page, and I'll drop this website into the chat here in a little bit. But it has a direct link to Gradescope with that arrow that you can see there. If you click on that, it will take you directly to Gradescope. This is also where other resources are. As you can see here, there is a mobile app that students can use to upload their assignments if you would like them to do that. Once you click that link to Gradescope, it'll take you to their website. All you need to do is click on the log in button in that, or icon in that top right corner where the arrow points to. That will then take you to this screen where you will want to click on school credentials. Once you click on that, it'll take you to a long list of schools who use Gradescope. But if you use the search tool and just cite up in that upper left and then down on the bottom right in that space where the search for school, if you just simply type in UNC, it'll pull up UNC Charlotte NinerNet ID. That's what you'll want to click on, and then it'll take you to your normal credentials for logging in. If you happen to since it does integrate with Gradescope, one of the things that you need to be aware of is that it's not currently part of the navigation bar on the left side in your courses. You have to go into the settings, and then go to navigation and add it to that navigation bar. We're hoping to do an upgrade between the semesters so that way we can get it there where you don't have to do that. So then you can access Gradescope either through Canvas or through that Gradescope site. Students can access it through the Gradescope site, through Canvas or through the app. And so this is where this will be your home page. It will have all your courses listed. And I think that's the last piece I have. So I think I'm going to turn it over to Tanya at this point.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, one more slide. These are the types of assignments that are there. Sorry about that. Most people are doing quizzes and exams. Some people are doing the bubble sheets. So this is how, these are the different types of assignments that are there. So yeah, this is how, this is the types that you can get, and the faculty will give you an idea of how they're using this.
Okay, everybody, thank you for coming. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about the course first before we get started and go into Gradescope, so I can kind of explain why I decided to use it. So I use Gradescope for my Fundamentals of Microbiology course, and this is a large enrollment course with 130 to 160 students each semester. And the majority of students are pre-nursing majors, but we also have some students who are meeting pre-professional school requirements within our course. And in the spring semester that I'll be talking about today, I taught this course as a hybrid course offered on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, with the Monday time slot being asynchronous with students completing readings or watching videos and generally just getting prepared for the course. And the Wednesday and Friday meetings were face-to-face and synchronous. And this is when we did activities or we did our assessments that I'll be talking about today. And so the course is very application-based. It has polling, case studies, lots of collaborative learning opportunities. And there are 5 in-person assessments across the semester that are worth about 30% of their overall course grade that I administer through Gradescope. And interestingly, this course is offered fall, spring, and summer. There's 2 instructors in the rotation, and that's one of the advantages I'll talk about with Gradescope. So next slide, please. So I want to tell you why I decided to use Gradescope. So it's easy to share complex assignments. So we do weekly assignments in the course. You can share your rubrics once they're created across multiple sections, across semesters. And so with the 2 instructors who are in the course, we share assignments, assessments, rubrics, and different things like that. And you can make real-time corrections to grading. So if you think historically, when I would grade paper exams myself, or the TA, if we noticed something that was wrong, we'd have to go back and add, 0.5 to 100 exams. And in Gradescope, you can do that automatically. You can adjust point values in real time, and it automatically updates all previously scored assessments. So that's a really nice time saver. It's also very easy to customize, to give customized feedback, give consistent feedback. And this is across sections, across semesters, and even across graders, as you'll hear about today. And one of the things that I really like is that you can do your regrades through Gradescope. And so if students request a regrade, I'll show you what this looks like in just a moment. It's super easy to manage. And as a faculty member who teaches between 3 and 4 large enrollment sections of courses a semester, I like that once I've digitized these exams in Gradescope, there's no need to store those paper copies in my office. There's no need to return 130 exams in class. You can give that feedback through Gradescope. So next slide, please. And so I just wanted to show you what it kind of looked like. So I said the class is really active. So this is an example of the assessment. So typically the TA that you'll hear from and I would distribute our in-class assessments and we would limit them to 3 to 4 pages maximum. The first page would typically be a scenario or something that the students would have to read. And then the rest of it would be the questions that they answer. And then they would turn that in. And then I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is what the questions look like. And I wanted to show you here that even with one assessment, you can utilize a variety of different types of questions that can be graded in Gradescope. So I used short answer, I used essay questions, and even multiple choice questions, all within that same assessment. And so in microbiology, the students will turn these paper exams in. I would take care of scanning them and uploading them to Gradescope. And then, of course, Gradescope does the magic of matching up the students with your imported roster that you heard Mitch talk about. Next slide, please. So after assignments have been completed, scanned, and matched, this is kind of what you see. This is after it's finished, but you can see lots of different information here. So you can manage your feedback with this platform. You can manage extensions if you need to give extensions to students on assignments or on assessments. You can see course statistics, you can see individual grading item statistics, and you can also manage those regrade requests. So on the left, you kind of see what the dashboard looks like. And on the right, you can see one assignment. That's that Module 5 assessment. And just one of the assessments in this semester. You can see when I released the grades. You can also see the number of submissions that were uploaded. And then you can see that percentage grading. So as the TA and myself are grading, we can kind of see in real time how far we've gotten. So that's kind of always fun to see. You can see if the grades have been published or not or released to the students. And then you can see if that regrade option is open for the students or not. So let me jump in and show you what a rubric looks like. So what it actually looks like to grade an assignment. So next slide, please. So I just pulled out one question from the assessment. So this is just one example. And these are the rubric options that you have. You can choose to either grade positive scoring or negative scoring. You can tell Gradescope what the range should be, so sort of what your bounds are. So it just gives you those default options that you'll use. And next slide, please. And so this is one question that had 2 parts along with it. And on the bottom, you can see the detail that you get with those rubrics. So you can break apart one question in Gradescope and give feedback on that, those 2 parts of that question. And so I'm going to turn it over to my amazing TA, Ariella, who's going to tell you more about that grading with the rubric and more about that feedback. So next slide, please.
So this rubric feature was the most useful and most helpful for me. It allowed me to grade very efficiently. I only had maybe 1 to 2 hours to grade left over in the week because of the time I was allotted. And Gradescope was super helpful in cutting down that time. It also made me really confident in being able to grade and knowing that I was grading to Miss Bates's standards because that rubric was set up for me. So I didn't have to worry about, oh, is this partial? Is this like how many points should I give? No, it was right there set up for me. And you can see even if they get no points, there's 2 options. Sometimes if they have no points, there's 2 options for partial credit, which was really helpful because with those free response answers, they could have, sometimes multiple ways to think about it. And so it was very helpful in providing feedback to the students. I think it also helped the students trust me in my grading because I was giving them those same standards that Professor Bates really wanted for them. But yeah, it helped make it very efficient and helped keep me meeting those standards of what are appropriate grading for every exam. Next slide, please. And then this also allowed us to give individualized comments to each student. We oftentimes use this to provide resources. So maybe a reminder of where could they find this in the textbook. And students a lot of times after the exam could go and learn from their mistakes really and go back and review the text and their notes. And we also could use it as a reminder. Maybe I would say, come to my review session on Wednesday. It's at blah, blah, blah time. And they would be able to do that and have that comment right there if they needed help or wanted to ask me more questions about how I graded their exam. Next slide.
Great, thank you. Yeah, the other thing that's really helpful on there is if you use a comment and you want to reuse it, Gradescope will save it. So when we talk about saving time, that's another feature that just saves time. It keeps that comment and then you can just apply it. If you want to say, hey, go to the TA sessions, this will be really helpful, or make sure you do this or whatever it is, you can kind of save that comment in Gradescope. So it is a real time saver in giving feedback in those large enrollment courses. So for the regrade feature, I just wanted to show you a little bit of detail about this. So I'm happy at any time to answer, any questions, even after this webinar. But this is one of my favorite features. So once you've added your feedback, you've completed your scoring, you can give the students this time frame to review your comments, review feedback, and ask any questions that they have. Obviously they can come to your student drop-in hours if you'd like, but you can also get feedback or get regrade requests and questions posted directly on Gradescope. So there's a customizable time frame. So we would open up the feedback, release the feedback, and then we would give students a week to 10 days to ask us questions or about regrades if they wanted us to look at anything, or if they thought they should have gotten credit, or if we missed something or we made a mistake in grading, which sometimes can happen. Next slide, please. So you can see these are the regrade requests that Ariella and I received for one of the exams. So you can see which question we received a regrade request for. You can see which grader went in and answered those questions. So if you're managing multiple TAs or if you have multiple graders for your course, you can see once we have completed the regrade request. And on the next slide, I'll show you what a little bit of that looks like. So these are the student requests. So what the student asked, maybe they explained the answer to this question and another question. They were more detailed, so they thought maybe they should get credit. So we can come in and we can say, yeah, we're going to give you those points back easily, and then leave a personalized comment for that student as well. So it's just a really easy way to manage regrades. You don't have to get, 20 exams back from students, have them hand them back, take them back to your office, give them back to the students. It's just all managed right in that Gradescope platform. So that was really helpful for me. Next slide, please. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Ree Linker, who's going to tell you more about Gradescope.
Thanks, Sonia. I learned a lot. So I'm going to be doing Gradescope a little bit differently next semester, even than this semester. So I'm using this course this semester in the Math 1102 course, which is Introduction to Mathematical Thinking. And this is a math course for students whose majors do not require any particular math course. So like history majors or English majors. So we have a lot of students in there who are math phobic. So it's a fun class to teach. It's a face-to-face course. And we'll do 4 assessments across the semester. So 3 midterm exams and a final exam. I do those on paper. It's entirely free response, but I keep them really short. So 1 page front and back, and I cram as much on that 1 page front and back as I can and still leave room for them to respond. Go ahead to the next slide. So this is a test that I recently gave. I have, my sections are between 70 and 90 students. So this semester I have 70 students, and I like to use test versions because they're sitting in each other's laps and it's really hard not to look at the paper next to you. So for this particular test, I have 5 different versions of the test, and Gradescope is great because it knows that those are all the same test. It kind of combines them together, and when it sends the grades back to Canvas, it does it, as a group. So students don't see what version they got. They just get their test 2 grade, and they can go from there. So again, same dashboard that you saw before, where you can see how much of the test is graded. We talk a lot about gamifying classes to make students participate, but for me, that green % graded bar has gamified grading because watching it move is very satisfying. Yeah, and my regrades are on for that. So that's the overall dashboard. And if you go to the next slide, we'll see what it looks like when you're actually inside a test. So this is test 2 version A. And you'll see we have that menu on the left-hand side that kind of walks you through the steps of grading. So the first thing that you need to do is upload a PDF of your test and show Gradescope where the answers are for these different questions. So one that you'll do is you'll have the name region, and they also like to have a numerical ID. I often can get away without using the numerical ID if students will write clearly in that name section. Gradescope knows who they are. We'll see that next. But for this particular test, you can see visible on this page are 1, 2, 3, 4 different questions that I've broken down the test into. And on the right, you can see the points that students are getting for these different questions. And again, question 1 has 3 questions in Gradescope because that was the easy way for me to break it down for grading. So I have a lot of control over how I'm going to grade this inside Gradescope. So when I go to grade question number 3, Gradescope is going to show me the contents of that box that I have marked as question 3 here in Gradescope. Okay, so we've edited the outline. The next thing in that left-hand menu is to create a rubric. So if you if you skip ahead one, you see I skipped right over create a rubric. You can go back. I skipped over create a rubric because I often don't create a rubric beforehand. So I'm one of those seat of the pants people. I upload my scans, and as I'm grading, I create the rubric as I go. Now, like Tanya and Ariella both said, the key for the rubric that I love so much is that it keeps me consistent. When I took 2 points off for a certain thing on one person's test, I am going to take 2 points off for that same thing on another person's test. That's very hard for me to do on paper, but in Gradescope, it's very easy. So we've skipped over create a rubric because I'm doing that on the fly. Get down to manage scans. So this is where after I give my paper test, I take them back up to the department copy machine and I scan those in version by version. And then I am able to upload those. And you see here where we have the button on the right where it says select PDF files. I can continue to add PDF files to that. This one in the middle, version A.pdf, there are 14 submissions. So I uploaded that PDF and it automatically broke it into 14 different submissions. Note that I also have 2 people who took the test at the ODS office. And so they emailed me those PDFs, and then I was just able to upload them straight into Gradescope. So that's the uploading part. Let's go to the next slide. Once they've been uploaded, we go to the part where we're managing the scans. So this is where Gradescope is matching the handwritten name with the name on the roster and Canvas. And it does a fantastic job of this. If you look on what you see there on that right-hand menu, you can see that 3 of these 5 were automatically assigned. It recognized the handwriting. It was able to say, okay, that matches with this person. Now you see the second one on that list, the person actually wrote their name outside of the box and then drew an arrow to the box. So Gradescope didn't know who that was. I had to manually say, oh, I can see that paper. I know who that is, and tell it who that is. But it does this very intelligently. So this is version A. By the time I get down to version F, it's not looking through all of my class people. It's only looking for the ones that it hasn't assigned yet. So it's a very smooth, very easy to use interface for getting the Gradescope to recognize what student we're talking about here. All right, next slide. All right, so we did the manage scans and manage submissions. It's now time to grade. So this is the grading dashboard. And I graded all of these myself. So you see all that little graded by J, that's me. And some of these questions I grouped for the answer, which I'll show you in a minute, and some of them I did not. But you just go through and grade these questions one by one. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is what it means when I say that they are grouping questions. So that first question that I asked on the test was, how many vertices are in this graph? And I showed it that little square is where I wanted the answer to go. And it said, hey, I see all these answers that look like 7s to me. Should I count them all as being equivalent to the same answer? And so I said, yes. So I looked at all of them and said, yep, those are all 7s. Group those together. And what happens, I'll show you in the next slide, with a grouped question is that I see this one and the answer, how many vertices does this graph have? I said 7. That one's correct. If I mark that one as correct, it marks all the other 7s as correct. So what I'll typically do is group the correct answer together because most people have the correct answer, and then go through individually for the people who don't have the correct answer, and then kind of say, okay, you lost 2 points because you switched your vertices and your edges, or if I need to make some other comment, I can make that other comment. But I can grade all the correct ones in one go with one click of the button. I would point out too, if you noticed with Tanya's test, she's grading on the plus system. So they start at a 0 and then they get points for getting things right. I am grading on the negative system. So they start with a full grade and then I take off points until they get to their final grade. Which is a difference in the way of grading. All right, next slide. So this is a question that I did not use grouping for because it was too complicated. So it was too hard for me to just look at them and say, yeah, these people all got it right. So you don't have to group. You can go through one by one by one. But again, you see here, it helps me keep consistency in how many points I took off for which error. And I also do use that feature that Tanya pointed out where you can have a comment saved and then reuse that comment. So if that comes up more than once, you can reuse the comment. It's very handy. Next slide. Okay, once you've graded everything and the green bars all the way through and you're feeling really good, you go to the review grades. So you can see at the very top, it will show me my grades for all of the tests for just version A, version B, version C, version D, and version E. On this page, you can kind of get a feel for the stats of the test, what your minimum, median, maximum, mean, and standard deviation are for this version or that version or all the versions, so you can compare. It also shows whether the student, you see this where it says viewed and it's got eyeballs, right? That shows you whether the student has seen this, it has gone to Gradescope to look at the feedback that you've given them, right? If there's no eyeball there, that means they didn't even bother to go into Gradescope to look and see why you deducted points. So it's really good to see, make sure students are seeing that. Maybe you need to mention it a few more times in class if they're not going to look to see where they lost points. And that is very handy. And across the bottom too, you see this is your last step, right? So you can post your grades to Canvas. You can download the grades. You can compose an email to students. I've never used that feature because I typically do that through Canvas and not through Gradescope. But this is where the grades go. After I have graded, I'll publish them to Gradescope and then I'll publish them to Canvas. That's the process that I use here. Keeps me consistent, keeps it pretty quick. I like it that I can go have lunch between grading half of question one and the other half of question one without losing my train of thought in terms of how many points I'm taking off for each error that I see. It's really made grading easier for me. I think that's my last slide. Can you check for me, Mitch? Yeah. I'm gonna turn it back to Mitch.
All right, so I did post the website for this page in the chat, so you can go in and look at that. And then just so you can see some of the resources that are on that page. All of our training is pretty much done by Gradescope themselves. So if you want to sign up for training, they usually have weekly workshops. They have some that you can just watch that are not live, that are on demand. And you can see some of the other things are here. And then you see some of the things that talk about how to deal with Gradescope and Canvas.
Well, I mean, I've got a little grab from bro. How can...
And then also, as I said, if you use bubble sheets, these are probably the two most important things for you to look at is exchanging out the 800 number on the bubble sheet in your roster. And it typically, when you have, most people that do this are large enrollment classes that are well over 100 to 200 students, and it increases most of the accuracy. You usually get about 95% of the students accurately identified and aligned with their answer sheet. So at this point, we'll open it up for questions.
So we don't have any questions right now in the chat, but if you want to put questions in the chat, you can do that and I'll call them out, or I would encourage you to raise your hand or unmute and just ask questions.
So I have a question. So in my large class, they submit a short answer assignment for each module. And So they submit that through Canvas. How would that work with Gradescope?
I can answer that if you want. I do weekly assignments, Kevin, in my course. And so the students actually just have a PDF in Gradescope, so they can access the PDF through Gradescope. They can type on it, or they can write if they prefer. They can print it out and bring it. I also typically bring a few copies to class. And then the students themselves can upload it directly to Gradescope if it's one of those types of weekly assignments. So that's really easy for the instructor. At the very beginning, there's just a little bit of a learning curve with the students, but that worked very well in our course. So they upload it directly, and then everything that you saw that Rhea and I showed is pretty much the same for grading. The assessments I uploaded myself, I gave them out, but the assignments, I would just give them a PDF, or I would bring, like I said, a few paper copies.
Okay, Kevin, I hope that answered your question. Yes, we have some other questions coming into the chat now. Margaret is asking, are there any online tutorials? And I know, Mitch, you talked about that, and do you want to address that?
Yeah, so if you go to the website that I put in the chat, it will take you to this page, and you can see that there are a number of ways to get some training on that. You can either sign up for an hour-long live session with a Gradescope help person. They have some online recordings, some of those webinars, and then also when you log into Gradescope itself, which everybody is already, you're already there, so you don't have to create an account. You just go through and log in to that site. There are a number of really short videos on different types of assignments and that you can get to from the Gradescope website.
Thank you, Mitch. And would you do me a favor? Would you drop that link to the resource site again into the chat? Because if someone joined after you dropped it originally, they might not have access to it. So Mitch is going to drop the link again to the Gradescope resource site where that training is available at. Additional questions from Claudia and Amy. They want to know, what would be the advantage of using Gradescope instead of a Canvas rubric?
This is not the main benefit, but for me, the ability to create my rubric as I'm grading helps a lot, because I don't know ahead of time what error I'm going to see repeatedly. So that helps for me.
Yeah, the other thing I like is that if you, like I said, if you make a change halfway through and you see that, gosh, 75 of my students have missed this question, maybe I missed the mark when I was talking about it. If you add that to the rubric, it'll automatically adjust everybody's credit back to that. So you can change it from like 0.5 to 0.25. It automatically adjusts. I really like that. And I think in terms of sharing the grading, if you share grading responsibilities with anybody, you can also both easily grade at the same time, and it keeps the progress updated. And in Canvas, I know you have to sometimes I've had TAs who've gone in a grade and I'm grading at the same time, and it doesn't save some of the progress for both of us. So I like that feature. And the other thing I like is that in Canvas, if you add the individualized feedback to the questions, sometimes the students don't go and read that individualized feedback for the question. They read the whole assignment feedback. I know it's like the one that's in with the question versus the one that's on the right-hand side with grading. So I like that feature in Gradescope. They just automatically get all the feedback if they view it. In terms of the rubric too, like Rhea said, I like building it as you go along instead of having to have it in place when the assignment is built.
I also find that the way that Gradescope kind of narrows your focus to just where the question is, I find that very handy. And I can't remember, it's been a while since I've used a Canvas rubric that way, but I don't think Canvas does that, where you just can see the part that you're working on right now, and it disassociates. So I grade without, I can't see who the student is when I'm grading, which is also really nice. That helps me, because I do tend to be like, oh man, that person got that wrong. Who is it? And that's not the way you want to grade. So I found that to be helpful.
I might ask Ariella if she has any feedback on that too, because she's graded both ways for me. She's graded in a different class for me. She's been a undergraduate TA for me in another class as well. So I don't know if you've noticed anything in terms of grading that's easier for you.
Yeah, I think Gradescope is so much easier than Canvas. I think it's just all right there for me. When I'm grading in Canvas right now, I look back at a separate rubric and I can copy paste some suggestions, but then it's just not all right there. So when I go to like a couple people later, I kind of remember someone else doing it, but maybe not, and it's all right there in Gradescope for me to be able to give that feedback instead of having to like look back and forth or what did I tell that other person who did the same thing. It's all right there for me, so it's a lot easier for me.
One other thing to mention is the grouping. So if you do any really short answer where they're just saying 1 or 2 words, or if it's like kind of a true false thing, or like a numerical short answer, that's really easy in Gradescope.
Okay, those are all the questions that are in the chat right now. Do we have anyone else who has any questions? Or I'd also like to say, has anyone had any ideas today? You're not currently using Gradescope and you're excited now and you want to try to use Gradescope, and how are you going to do that? And if you'd like to share that with the group. While we're thinking about that, we have another question that came in. Kevin wants to know, is there any way to test it in a class?
Absolutely. You can test it at any point in time that you want. You can start a class anytime you want. And so you just have to log into the site and you can put it into a course and play around with it. And you don't even have, like, you can play around with it before you even actually start using it in your class. You can set up a sandbox if you want to just kind of see what you can do with it, and then connect it to your Canvas course later. They don't have to be going at the same time.
So Mitch, so I don't mess up anybody's grade, I could actually like use it for a class that I'm teaching now, but it wouldn't show any grades in Canvas until I like uploaded to Canvas or something.
Correct.
Oh, okay, that makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah, you always have to, there's I think Bree showed it at the end. Let me see if I can go back real quick on the slide. Anytime, but once you get the grades, it will just be in Gradescope. And so the students won't see the grades until you either post it in Canvas or post it within Gradescope itself. Until you do that, you get to look at the data and the grades and everything to check to make sure everything's okay before anything goes out to the students at any point in time.
So that looks like that is all of our questions. If we don't have any others, I would like to say thank you to everyone for coming out today, and a huge thanks to our presenters. Mitch, do you want to speak to reaching out for contact here?
Yeah, sure. As Tanya mentioned, I think Ree mentioned, feel free to contact them if you have any questions about how they're using it in their class. If you just need basic information about Gradescope, or have any questions about logging in or anything like that, feel free to contact me. I am the campus contact for Gradescope.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming out today. We hope that you will all get a chance to play with Gradescope and integrate it into your courses and see the power that it has to make grading easier for you. Have a wonderful day. We have another one of these sessions running tomorrow, so tell your friends. Tell other people in your department. We do have another session that is happening tomorrow at, let me see, 11:30 a.m. and registration is still open for that. And so please feel free to share. If you want to come again, you can come again, or if you want to come again and bring friends, that would be great as well. We hope that you all have a wonderful afternoon, and thank you for joining us.